Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto became a handsome Kitsune king of Monster High and built a powerful harem part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. After reading, Naruto paled a little at the thought of being grounded without his Reman, but quickly got over it at the sound of someone knocking at his door. He opened the door and smiled at the sight of Frankie, Cleo, Giulia, Draculora, Claudine, Laguna, and Abby. He also noticed that they brought their boyfriends Deuce, Claude, and Gil along with a werewolf ghoul that Naruto didn't know. Hey Naruto, we're here to help you with the party and we brought Deuce, Gil, Claude, and Hoween to help. Frankie said excitedly. Dude, your place is awesome. Deuce said, not believing how huge the Kitsune's home was. Hey, thanks guys. Naruto said before seeing Howleen. You must be Howleen, right? Nice to meet you, I'm Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, the Manster of Monster High. Howleen exclaimed in excitement, almost not believing that she was meeting the Kitsune. Manster of Monster High huh? Well, it's an improvement from some of my other titles back home. Naruto said with a sweat drop. Anyway, let's get started. We've got a lot to prepare for tonight. With excited faces, everyone nodded and quickly got to work on preparing for the party, not knowing that tonight was going to be one hell of a party alright. Hours later, Naruto's place was filled with almost half of the student body of Monster High. Most of them was dancing to the awesome DJ skills of whose name Naruto earlier learned was Holt Hyde, Jackson Jekyll's alter ego. Naruto had to admit that even though Jackson always acted like he wasn't good at anything, his alter ego fixed that by using his skills. Naruto is currently seen leaning on the snack table, listening to the beat. As he was lost in the music, he never noticed a certain dragon slip next to him. Hello again Naruto. Jinafire greeted the Kitsune, getting his attention. Hey there Jinafire, what are you up to? Enjoying the party I hope. Naruto said, happy to see another one of his friends. It is fun, but there is something that I'm much more interested in at the moment. Jinafire said, making Naruto raise an eyebrow. Oh, and that would be? Naruto asked. Simple. I wish for you and I to have a spar. To test how good your martial arts are against my own. Jinafire answered, making Naruto smirk in a challenging way. Is that so? Well, who am I to say no to a request like that? Very well Jinafire Long, I accept your challenge. Naruto announced, getting some people's attention. They were soon standing in the backyard staring across from each other, several people surrounding them and Holt readying to play a song for their spar to make it more epic. I should warn you, I am quite fluent in Kung Fu. Jinafire said, getting into a fighting stance. Hey, Kung Fu huh? Well, is basic martial arts called taijutsu, so this'll be fun. Japanese taijutsu versus Chinese Kung Fu, let's do this. Naruto said, getting into his own fighting stance with Holt starting the music. Play Eiffel 65's Move Your Body. Naruto quickly charged at Jinafire with surprising speed, shocking everyone. He sent a palm strike at her, but she countered by blocking then sending a kick at Naruto's head, only for him to jump back. Jinafire then ran at Naruto and went for a punch, but was surprised when he moved his hand pushed her fist to the side, making lose her footing, but she quickly used the momentum to push her hands to the ground and send a kick towards his head, only for him to dodge and kick her hands out from under her and send her spinning from him into a nearby tree. Hey, not bad, but if you want to hit me, you're going to have to be faster than that. Naruto stated. Indeed, but don't think that one needs only speed to win. One must also be smarter. Jinafire said as she ran at Naruto again, only for him to dodge to the side. Jinafire smiled at this as she used her tail to grab his wrist and bring him down to the ground before spinning and throwing him a few feet away. Naruto groaned as he got back up and smiled at her. Not bad, She actually caught me off guard with that one. Smart idea using her tail grab and throw me. Guess I have more to avoid than just her kicks and punches. Naruto thought before Jinfire ran at him again. Naruto quickly jumped out of the way of an axe kick before running at her with a palm strike to her chest, sending her skidding back. Jinfire tried to regain her footing, but was shocked when Naruto appeared behind her and sent a kick to her back, sending her flying into a practice log. I must say, he takes advantage of both his taijutsu and his speed. He uses them both to break through an opponent's defense. I'm impressed, Jinfire thought, getting back to her feet. Song end. Naruto decided to end the spar by running at Jinfire while her back was turned, but before he could react she turned around and sent a blast of fire at him, sending Naruto away with a yell of pain. At this, Jinfire gasped at her own actions. She had just severely hurt one of her friends without thinking. Oh no, what have I done? Jinfire said, not believing what happened. However, before she could break down into tears, a reddish-orange hand appeared on her right shoulder, making people gasp. Jinfire turned and saw that it was Naruto giving her his foxy grin. Well, I guess we can stop there, right? Naruto asked. Everyone was surprised when they saw the Naruto that was burned puff into smoke. What? How did you? Jinfire tried to ask, but was cut off by Naruto. When you're a Kitsune, you use what skills you have at your disposal. Naruto said simply. Well, I'm impressed. No one in my family was able to ever beat me in a spar. Thank you for the opportunity to test my skills against your own Naruto. Jinfire said with a bow that Naruto returned. Later, Naruto is seen walking around as people are dancing until he saw Frankie and was about to go over and dance with her when a voice got his attention. Hello Naruto. A famine voice said. Naruto looked around, but saw no one. Down here, the voice said again. Naruto looked down and saw the head of a beautiful pale-skinned ghoul with blue eyes and blue-violet hair sticking out of his stomach. His eyes widened as he looked at her. Either there's really a ghoul in my gut or Jinfire hit me harder than I thought. Naruto said, making the ghoul giggle. No, it's definitely the first one. The ghoul said as she phased through Naruto and floated in front of him. It's nice to meet you Naruto, my name is Spectra Vondergeist. Spectra Vondergeist, as in the writer of the ghostly gossip? Naruto asked, getting nod. Yes, and I'm sorry for most of the stuff I wrote. Spectra said with an ashamed look. I just wanted to save my website since it's all I have. Naruto gave her a look, but sighed and crossed his arms across his chest. Well, I can understand that then. Still, next time you want to write a story about me, just ask. Naruto said, making Spectra squeal before giving him a strong hug. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Spectra said before blushing. So, if it's not too much to ask, can I come over and interview you tomorrow? Hey, sure thing, I'm free that day too. Naruto said, getting a happy nod from Spectra before she flew off to who knows where. Naruto smiled and headed over toward Frankie. He walked up behind her and Claudine as they were talking on the couch. Naruto smirked before placing both hands on their shoulders, making them jump. They calmed down and gave him a smile. Hey ghouls, enjoying the party? Naruto asked. Yeah, it's clawsome. Claudine replied with a toothy grin. Yeah, this party is the best I've ever been to. Frankie said happily before noticing that the music changed to a slow dance theme. Hey, care to dance Frankie? After all, I personally asked Holt to do this. Naruto asked with his hand out, to which Frankie blushed, but took it. They smiled and started moving in a slow dance, while Claudine watched with a little jealousy. She didn't want to admit it, but she wished Naruto had asked her to dance too. However, she was broken out of her thoughts by a Naruto double appearing in front of her from a puff of smoke. She looked and saw Naruto give her a smile as he danced with Frankie. She remembered them watching Naruto and Jinafire spar, so they knew he could make clones of himself. Claudine smiled and took the clone's hand before moving to another part of the dance floor. Meanwhile, Naruto and Frankie were staring into each other's eyes as they danced. They saw in the other's eyes that they were both happy to be doing this, but were both wanting the same thing as the other. I really want to kiss you right now, but don't know how you'll respond. Oh, for the love of Ghoul, I'm going for it. They thought in unison. Naruto's and Frankie's faces moved on their own. As they moved closer, their lips were just an inch apart before a loud crash stopped them and everyone else from dancing. What is this? A party and I wasn't invited. Whoever did such a thing is going to feel my wrath. A loud voice yelled that everyone, especially Cleo, recognized. Oh no, what is my sister Nefera doing here? There's no way she could have found out about Naruto's party, I made sure of it. Cleo said as Nefera walked into the room with an annoyed expression on her face. Who is the loser in charge of this party that didn't invite me? Nefera denial. Nefera yelled out, wanting to find the person that she thought was about to regret being born. I'll ask once more. Who is in charge of this party and didn't invite me? Nefera denial. Nefera yelled a second time. Naruto frowned at this and looked toward Frankie, who was giving him a pleading look. Naruto smirked before letting her go and walking toward Nefera with a serious expression that said he meant business. He stepped out of the crowd of monsters, and while Nefera was looking toward her obviously scared sister Cleo, who was trying to hide Deuce. The one in charge of this little party would be me. Naruto said, getting Nefera's attention as she slowly turned toward him. Is that so? Well then, you listen here you, Nefera began, but as soon as her eyes landed on Naruto, she was struck speechless. Absolutely gorgeous monster. Nefera yelled as bandaged hearts floated around her. This exclamation shocked everyone. If there was one thing everyone expected Nefera to say, it most certainly was not that. Nefera has never called anyone in the world gorgeous before, so this was impossible to believe. Nefera denial had called Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze an absolutely gorgeous monster. Nefera then noticed what she had said earlier and quickly slapped her hands over her mouth in complete embarrassment. She had just mocked a very handsome ghoul who probably thought she was a complete idiot. However, she noticed he had a surprised look on his face. Thanks. Anyway, why are you trying to ruin my party? Naruto asked the older denial. I just wanted to be a part of the party, but no one invited me. So, I thought I should crash it if nobody was going to tell me about it. Nefera answered with an ashamed expression. Naruto stared at her for a moment with an unreadable expression of his own before smiling at her. Well then, I suppose I can't just tell you to leave after just showing up, so I'll allow you to stay on one condition. Naruto said, making Nefera smile in joy. Anything, name it, Nefera exclaimed in hope. You can stay and party, but you have to be nice and not cause any trouble everyone, simple as that. Are we clear? Naruto asked, but already knew the answer. Very well, I agree to your terms. Nefera said calmly, but was cheering in her mind. Hey, great, hit it Holt, Naruto yelled, getting said monster to start the music back up. Naruto was about walk back to Frankie, but noticed that Cleo had somehow gotten behind him and blocked his path. Are you crazy or something, Naruto? Why in the right mind would you let Nefera stay? Do you even know how evil she is? Cleo yelled at the Kitsune in both rage and annoyance. Firstly, Cleo, calm down. If she causes any problems, I'll take care of it, okay? Naruto asked, getting an agreeing nod. Second, evil as two guys running at each other with anime tears to a sunset background before hugging each other. He finished, getting a laugh from various people. Naruto then got back to Frankie and they, along with everyone else, danced the night away. Unknown to anyone there, two guys were watching the house from atop the surrounding wall. Well now, looks like we found him, the 9 tails. Kitsune said with his usual shark grin. Yes, and it appears as though his parents are not around. Itachi stated as he watched the party emotionlessly. Good, because those two came close to killing us last time we tried to take their son, but now's our chance to capture the boy without anyone getting in our way. Kitsune said, about jump inside, but was stopped by Itachi. We'll wait until he's alone before making our move. Itachi said emotionlessly, but the tight grip on Kisame's shoulder said otherwise. Kitsune reluctantly nodded before turning back to watch the party. Back to the party, Naruto had gotten back to Frankie and were enjoying each other's company. However, Frankie remembered that she wanted to ask him something. Say Naruto, if you don't mind my asking, what was with you and your dad when you talked about Madara Uchiha? Is there something that happened between you and him? Frankie asked, making Naruto tense, which she noticed. I don't know what you're talking about, Frankie. Naruto said, making Frankie frown at his obvious lie. Naruto, if something's wrong you can tell me, I won't judge you. Frankie said, placing her hand on his. Please Naruto. Naruto sighed and Frankie thought he wasn't going to let her help. She was about to pull away, but was stopped by Naruto's words. You really want to know more about me, Frankie? Naruto asked, getting a surprised but quick nod from the stitched-up beauty. All right then, follow me. They stood and left the room to the empty upstairs. They walked down the hall a ways before Naruto stopped at a door. He opened the door and let Frankie walk in first before entering himself. She looked around and quickly deduced that it was his room. The room had a king-sized bed, a full body-length mirror, a dresser, some shelves filled with scrolls, a desk with various papers on it, and a weapons cabinet with weapons consisting of some shuriken, kunai, a tanto, and a katana. Frankie then noticed Naruto sit on the bed and pat the spot next to him for her to sit down. Frankie complied and sat to his left. They sat in a moment of silence before Naruto broke it. You asked why my dad and I don't like Madara Uchiha, right? Naruto began, getting a nod from Frankie. It's actually for a different reason altogether. You see, when I was in school, I had this huge crush on this ghoul named Sakura Haruno. To me, she was the most attractive ghoul I had ever seen. Every chance I got, I would ask her out, but always get rejected because she liked this other guy named Sasuke Uchiha, my best friend. Naruto paused, letting his words sink in. His best friend. I guess this Sasuke guy has to do with Naruto's attitude, but why? Frankie questioned in her mind before Naruto continued. Anyway, Sasuke always had ghouls going after him, but always ignored them all. The same was with Sakura, but she still bugged him for dates, only to be rejected herself. Anyway, after so long, I had finally managed to get a date with her. Naruto paused at this, starting to get sad. However, on my way to her house to pick her up, I saw her in a restaurant with none other than Sasuke. She had completely forgotten about our date together and went on one with him. At this, Frankie gasped. Naruto had been heartbroken by his crush and betrayed by his best friend. Frankie thought that was the end of his story, but she was wrong. The next day, I walked to Junkyard and found Sasuke there. I walked up to him and confronted him about what I saw between him and Sakura. He just smirked and said that he saw me ask her out and that she agreed to go, but just to show that because he was a Uchiha that he gets whatever he wants and that someone like me would never be able to make any ghoul happy. He also started insulting my parents and even our other friends. At this, I lost it and we started fighting. We went at it for hours, practically destroying half of the junkyard. After a whole 3 hours of fighting and beating each other bloody pulps, we were both on the ground and on the verge of death. Naruto stated, making Frankie's eyes widen. Death. Wait, you don't mean you two actually tried, Frankie tried to say, but was cut off by Naruto. To kill each other, yeah. Naruto said. After we were found, we were taken to the hospital. After a few days, I got out of the hospital, and when I got home, I was told about us moving, and here we are. He finished with a downcast expression. Naruto was very sad, but was surprised when he found himself in a very strong hug. He looked and saw that it was Frankie. Naruto, I'm so sorry for making you bring up such bad memories. I just wanted to know so I could help you, but I didn't know that it was that bad. Frankie said, trying not to cry. It's okay, Frankie. You just wanted to know more about me, and I appreciate that, but I do want to know why you wanted to know so much about me though. Naruto asked in curiosity. Frankie actually got over her sadness for her newest friend, still trying not to cry, and looked up at him with a small smile before placing an affectionate hand on his cheek. This, Frankie replied, leaning forward and placing her lips on Naruto's. Naruto was surprised at first, but soon got over it and kissed back, making Frankie's heart flutter in happiness. She felt warmth as Naruto circled his arms around her waist and she wrapped her arms around his neck. They soon ended the kiss and panting. Frankie, Naruto whispered as he gazed into her blue and green eyes. Naruto, Frankie whispered as she gazed into his blue eyes. They continued to stare at each other and were about to kiss again, but were stopped by the unexpected. Well now, isn't that sweet? An unknown voice said from the window. They jumped apart in surprise and looked outside the window to see someone that made Naruto's eyes widen in shock. Before them was Kitsune Hoshigaki with an intimidating grin on his face. You, what the hell are you doing here, you fish-faced freak? Naruto yelled, getting into a fighting stance. Frankie looked between the two in both surprise at Naruto's outburst and fear at the aura the fish monster was giving off. Naruto, who is this? Frankie asked, getting behind Naruto. Naruto looked toward Frankie and saw the fear in her eyes. He growled before sighing. Frankie, Naruto began, but was cut short by Kitsune chuckling. Haha, sorry girl, but I'm afraid that your new boyfriend won't be explaining anything, because, Kitsune paused, holding his fingers up in a hand sign before being covered in a puff of smoke. He's coming with us. After the smoke cleared, Kitsune stood wearing different clothes. He now wore a pair of dark open-toe shoes with shin-length socks outside of them, dark knee-length pants, a black high-collar cloak with red clouds, a metal-plated headband with a water symbol crossed out, and a belt horizontally across his chest holding large sword wrapped in bandages on his back. Frankie was scared now, but thought about what he just said. Wait, us? Frankie questioned as the door silently opened behind her and was grabbed by someone, causing her to let out a quick yelp before her mouth was muffled. Frankie's yell got Naruto's attention and he turned to see Itachi Uchiha dressed the same as Kitsune and gripping a struggling Frankie's arm with a hand over her mouth. Hello again, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Itachi said without any emotion, holding Frankie in place with little effort. Grr. You. Let Frankie go, you bastard. Naruto yelled, not noticing Kitsune grabbing his sword from behind him. Frankie tried to yell for Naruto to move, but with her mouth covered. However, Naruto saw the frightened look in her eyes and quickly dodged to his right, narrowly avoiding a strike from Kitsune. He rolled before getting to his weapons cabinet. He didn't bother to unlock it and busted the glass. He quickly pulled out the katana and unsheathed it before getting into a stance with his sword at the ready and a scowl. You two made a big mistake. No one breaks into my home and gets away with it, and they most certainly won't get away from me if they hurt my friends. Naruto stated with a very determined look. Kitsune grinned at Naruto while Itachi looked on without a care. Frankie though couldn't help but feeling her heartbeat increase. He really was brave enough to fight for her and others. Well then kid, since you're going to be dead soon anyway, I might as well have some fun with you. Kitsune said, pointing his sword at Naruto. It's been a while since Samahata's had any delicious chakra to devour, and I think yours will do nicely. As the party was going on, Claudine was wondering where Naruto and Frankie were. She walked out back and looked around, but didn't see them. Though, she did giggle when she saw Heath hitting on Abby, only to get the cold shoulder, literally. She then saw Jennifer, Rebecca, Spectra, and Draculaura speaking to each other and walked toward them. Hey Claudine, everything okay? Draculaura asked, seeing the worried look on her friend's face. Yeah, I mean no, I don't know. Have any of you seen Naruto or Frankie anywhere? Claudine asked, but only got head shakes. She was about to say more, but was stopped at the sound of a loud crash from inside the house, getting all the monsters' attentions from outside. What in ghoul's name was that? Rebecca asked, hoping someone had an answer. As if the universe heard her, her answer came in the form of Naruto crashing through the second-floor window and hitting the ground hard, shocking everyone around. Naruto. The ghouls yelled and were about run over to see if he was okay, but were stopped when a large fish monster wearing a black cloak with red clouds and a giant bandaged sword in hand landed and stood over Naruto's still form. He looked around with a sharp grin, scaring most of the monsters around him. Hey, well, you know what they say. If you can't join the party, crash it. Kitsune said with his sword raised over his head and bringing it down toward Naruto. Kisami's sword was coming down fast toward Naruto's down form. However, before Samahata hit, Kitsune was knocked back by a hard kick that came out of nowhere. Grunting, Kitsune looked up and saw that the attack came from Jennifer, who was giving him an unpleased look. I do not know who you are or why you are attacking Naruto, but for whatever the reason I cannot just stand by and watch you kill my friend. Jennifer stated as she got into her fighting stance. This doesn't concern you, girl, move aside or else. Kitsune threatened, pointing Samahata at her. Jennifer was about to say something, but was stopped by Naruto placing a hand on her shoulder, who somehow got up and behind her. Jennifer, just leave this guy to me. Naruto said as he walked in front of her. No, Naruto, you need all the help you can get. Jennifer protested. No offense, but you're way out of this guy's league. He's a master swordsman from Japan and take my word for it, he knows how to use a sword. Especially that one in his hand. Naruto explained, indicating to Samahata. And besides him, his partner is just as dangerous as him if not more. Just then, Itachi behind Kitsune with Frankie still in his grasp, making everyone around look on in surprise, worry, and anger. Hey, let my beast friend go, you cloaked freak. Claudine yelled at Itachi, who simply ignored her and turned to his partner. Kitsune, try to make this quick, we need to hurry before his parents return. Itachi said before turning back to the upcoming fight. Fine, I'll try to get it done before that happens. Kitsune said, getting ready to charge. Jennifer, if you really want to help, get Frankie out of Itachi's grasp. Naruto said, getting a nod of agreement from the dragon. Also, don't look him directly in the eye or he'll place you under what's called a genjutsu. What's a genjutsu? Jennifer asked, just wondering how to avoid it. In short, it's an ability to place an illusion on someone to mess with their senses. Just avoid looking him in the eye and you'll be fine, but be careful. Itachi isn't just skilled in genjutsu, but also taijutsu and ninjutsu. Naruto warned, getting nod of understanding from her before she stepped to the side. Naruto then turned to Kitsune and got into his own fighting stance with his sword at the ready. Unknown to any of them, Spectra had pulled out her eye coffin and started get video of what was about to happen, but still held a worried look for the Kitsune. Holt had stopped the music and was looking for another song for the fight that was about to happen between the Kitsune and the fish monster. He quickly found the song he was looking for and put it of play. Ashes Remain. End of Me. As the music played, Naruto and Kitsune stared at each other. They then charged at each other and their swords clashed. They then started a series of slashes, stabs, blocks, and dodges. Naruto then jumped back to avoid a kick from Kitsune, who gave him a grin before jumping at the blonde. Naruto brought up his sword for a block, but was caught by off guard when Kitsune landed in front of him and hit him with hilt of his sword, sending Naruto flying. Naruto quickly recovered and flipped before landing in a crouch. He used the momentum to run at Kitsune at unnatural speeds and bringing up his hands in a hand sign. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto yelled, causing 4 other Narutos to appear. Kitsune smirked before charging at the 5 Narutos. He cut down the nearest one before kicking another one away, causing them to disappear into smoke. He then brought his sword up high over his head before bringing it down, sending the last 3 Narutos flying toward the lake and landing in it with a large splash. Kitsune then jumped high in the air over the lake. Everyone watching thought he was going to make an even bigger splash, but were completely shocked when he landed and stood on the water as if it were the ground. No way, he's standing on the water, Laguna said as she stood by Jennifer, Gil, Heath, and Claudine. Never mind that, we need to get to Frankie while that guy's distracted, Claudine said, getting nods from her friends as they stood in the crowd. They then turned and saw from Itachi's far right in the crowd that Claude, Deuce, Abby, Rebecca, and even Manny stood ready to run at Itachi and free Frankie. They gave a signal to each other and charged Itachi with a battle cry. Itachi didn't even blink before avoiding a punch from Claude and kicking him back before turning to an angry Manny, who was going for a punch himself. Itachi removed his hand from Frankie's mouth and grabbed Manny's fist without any effort, surprising the Minotaur before he was thrown over Itachi's head and into an approaching Abby, sending them both back. The remaining ghouls were shocked to see 3 of their toughest friends taken down in a flash without even a sweat. I think, we need another plan, a shaking Heath said in fear. Back with Naruto and Kitsune. Naruto jumped out of the water and stood on the surface like the fish monster in front of him, shocking everyone again. Kitsune smirked before going holding up a hand sign. Water style. Exploding water shock wave. Kitsune yelled, spewing a giant wave of water out of his mouth and rode it toward the blonde. Naruto quickly jumped in the air and sent Kitsune back with a hard kick to the face, causing him to fly until he landed on the other side of the wave before Naruto landed a few feet in front of him. Damn kid, you've definitely gotten better, but as impressed as I am, it'll do you little good against me. You'll have to do better than that in order to beat me, Kitsune said with a sharp grin. Really? In that case, how about this? Naruto with his foxy grin. Kitsune saw nothing happen, but was caught by surprise when felt a pair of hands grab his ankles. He looked down just as he was lifted over the water's surface by multiple Narutos. He growled and was about to use Samahata to strike them, but was shocked when he saw several other Narutos jump out of the water and onto him, preventing him from moving. Damn it, you little brat. Let me go, Kitsune yelled in anger, trying to free himself. The Narutos under him soon stopped at the surface of the water and started spinning Kitsune around at an incredible speed as they started picking up momentum. Kitsune was actually starting to get worried as he was being spun. If couldn't move or even use his sword or jutsu, he was in big trouble. Damn, the brat got the better of me. He planned for me knock him into the lake, the water, my turf. He made this many clones while he was under the water. I underestimated him and look what happened. Kitsune thought in rage as the clone's speed increased before they all smirked. I think it's time for you to catch the next flight out of here, fish face. The Narutos all yelled at once before letting the fish monster going and sending him flying at such high speeds he flew out of sight of everyone there in less than a second with only a yell behind him. DDDAAAMMMNNNYYUOUUU. Kitsune shouted as he disappeared out of sight. Song end. So long, Sharky. Don't forget to write. Naruto yelled as his clones all disappeared. He then became serious and turned to Itachi, who was currently fighting Jinfire, while holding Frankie in his grasp. However, Jinfire was having a hard time hitting him without hitting Frankie. Just as she was about to try for another hit, Naruto came from Itachi's right with a ball energy in hand, heading tight for the Uchiha's head. However, before the attack could make contact, Itachi's entire body turned into crows, shocking everyone, minus Naruto. On the bright side, it made Itachi release Frankie. Frankie, are you okay? Naruto asked, catching her before she fell. Yeah, I'm fine. Frankie answered before noticing the closeness of their bodies and blushing, making Naruto smirk in amusement before turning back to the now reforming Itachi. I suppose I have to fight you since Kisami's ego got the better of him. Itachi said as unzipped in collar of his cloak and drawing a kunai. He threw it, making Naruto shove Frankie out of the way and jumping the other way. However, Naruto was caught off guard when Itachi went through a series of hand signs. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. Itachi yelled, breathing out a giant fireball at Naruto, who was in midair without anything to save him from certain death. Time seemed to slow down as Frankie and the rest of the ghouls and spectators all watched in fear of what was about to happen. Naruto. Frankie yelled as tears started to form in her eyes. Before the attack could make contact, a tri-bladed kunai came out of nowhere between the Kitsune and the fireball before the latter disappeared into thin air and reappearing far behind him and hitting the lake, causing steam to form. Everyone was surprised to see this, minus Naruto, because there was only one person he knew that could have done that. Hey Dad, Mom, Naruto said, just as said two people appeared in front of him in a flash of light, shocking everyone around them. Well, as much as I'm not happy to see the house a mess, I'm going to assume that it's because of our unwelcome guest here. Kushina said with an all too sweet smile, making most monsters back up in fear. Yes, and I think that if I were him right now, I would get as far away as fast as possible. Minato said with another tri-bladed kunai in hand. Itachi said nothing as he stared down the two people in front of him. Though, even he knew he couldn't fight these two, not on his own. However, his target was right in front of him. Right behind these two. Itachi knew that he had to make a very quick decision, and fast. Very well, since I obviously don't stand a chance against both of you, I'll go. However, keep in mind that the Akatsuki will send others after you, Naruto. Farewell for now, Itachi said before turning into crows and disappearing into the night. Well, that's that, for now. Minato said to himself before turning to all the party goers. Sorry everyone, but it looks like the party's over. If you'd all be so kind as to leave, but please, come again. It looks like you all had fun. Everyone murmured and nodded between themselves before doing as asked of them and leaving while a certain few stayed behind. Minato, Kushina, and Naruto looked at the ghouls and guys with a sigh. They obviously wanted answers as to what just happened. Alright, I guess since the secret's out, we might as well explain what just happened. Naruto said, getting a nod from everyone before heading inside for the explanation. As they were walking, Frankie walked closer to Naruto, making him smile before placing arm over her shoulder and pulling her closer, making her smile back, unknowingly making Abby, Claudine, Jennifer, Spectra, and Rebecca jealous. However, Kushina noticed this and had to suppress a giggle at what she was planning to tell them about kitsunes and harems. Unknown location. So, you kids want my help in getting stronger? Asked a figure hidden in shadows as he spoke to Sasuke, Karen, Suigetsu, and Jugo. Yes, that's right, Sasuke said simply. Interesting. And what, pray tell, is the reason for the sudden interest? As if I have to ask. The figure said with amusement. To kill Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. To show him just who is better. To get revenge on him for humiliating me. Sasuke answered with anger in his voice. Very interesting motives, but what's in it for us? You don't expect to get anything without giving us something in return, do you? Asked another figure in the shadows. Sasuke said nothing as he activated his Sharingan, making the first figure smile sinisterly at the offer. The Sharingan. Very well, I accept your offer. the figure said with a dark gleam in his eye at the thought of gaining such power. Thank you, Orochimaru-sama. Sasuke said with a sinister smile of his own. Some torches lit out of nowhere, revealing a man with pale skin, long black hair, slitted snake eyes with purple markings over them. His clothes consisting of a lab coat over a long-sleeved black shirt. As your eyes go lower, you see a long white snake tail. The other person beside him is a normie boy their age with lightly tanned skin, white hair tied in a ponytail, glasses over black eyes, and a plaited headband with a musical note on it. His clothes consisting of violet sleeveless high-collar shirt over a short-sleeved white shirt, a sash around his waist, violet plated fingerless gloves, violet pants, and open-toe shoes. Let's get started, Orochimaru said as he slithered toward Sasuke and got into a fighting stance with the Uchiha doing the same. After the party, Naruto, his parents, and his friends that consisted of Frankie, who was sitting on his right, Laguna, Claudine, Draculora, Cleo, Abby, Deuce, Jennifer, Spectra, Rebecca, Claude, Heath, and Gil. They sat in the living room in silence, while various shadow clones that Naruto made cleaned around them. The silence was soon broken by Naruto. Well, I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions, but I'm not really sure where to begin. Naruto stated as he rubbed the back of his head. How's about with who those guys were and why they were after you? Claudine said, making Naruto nod. Alright, those guys were Itachi Uchiha and Kitsune Hoshigaki, rogue ninja from Japan. Naruto said, making some of them raise a brow. Ninjas. I thought ninjas wore all black and used all kinds of wicked weapons and knew a lot of sweet kung fu moves. Hiya, Heath asked while doing karate chops, making everyone sweat drop. Reet. Well, that's just movie stuff. Real ninja would kick those fake ones into next week. Real ninja are like the ones you guys saw. Ask for all that black, I don't know where people got that from. As I was saying, those two are rogue ninja that leave their homes for their own purposes. Naruto said, getting nods of understanding from everyone. Okay, but who were those guys that tried to kill you? What did you ever do to them? Frankie asked, not understanding why someone was out to kill her new boyfriend. Sigh, that's just it. It's not because of what I did to them, it's because of what's inside me. Naruto answered, confusing his friends. What do you mean what's inside you? Claudine asked everyone's question. Well, you see, back in Japan, I'm what's called a Jinchuriki, a demon container. I carry the nine-tailed fox inside me, a being with unimaginable power. Naruto answered, shocking everyone. I've heard of the nine-tailed fox from my father when I was younger. It was said to be a massive fox whose 9 tails could crush mountains and whose shake the ground as it walked. I heard that it had so much power that no body could face it and survive. I also heard that there were 8 other beasts just like it, known as Biju. I thought they were just a myth though. Cleo said, not believing what they heard their friend say. I'd have heard of these Biju before. Once, one of my cousins left China with an army of 100 men in search of finding at least one of the Biju and said that they would not return until exactly 3 months until they either had a Biju or failed to capture one. Jennifer said, getting the room's attention. He once sent me a letter after 1 month, telling me that they were getting close to finding the Biju known as the 4 tails. However, I never received a letter from him ever again. After 3 months, only 23 men returned, each with massive wounds and even missing limbs. My cousin was not among them. I, like Cleo, thought they were only a myth as well. I'm afraid that they are real and very powerful, and what you said is true. Nobody could fight a Biju, not even an army. Minato said, scaring them all before he continued. However, there is one thing that can stop a Biju, and that's sealing them away. Wait, if the only way to stop one of these Biju is to seal them away, why not just seal them in a scroll or something? Like the way Naruto keeps his lunch in one. Frankie asked, making the family frown. I'm afraid that I'm to blame for that. Minato said, surprising the ghouls. You see, an unknown masked man attacked Kushina and I, right at Naruto's birth. Kushina used to be the holder of the 9 tails, but this person released it from her and almost destroyed our home with it. Many of our ninja tried to fight it, but never stood a chance. So, when I joined the battle, I knew the only way for me to stop it was to seal it into a baby. I couldn't seal such power away into a scroll, because it was too powerful for such things, but couldn't ask anyone to have their child become a Jinchuriki. However, the only leader of our home showed up and helped me. He sacrificed his life to split the beast's power between me and Naruto, and what chakra, which is what we ninja use to do what you saw, that was left over from it was sealed into Kushina, to save her life. You see, if a biju is freed or extracted from its host, then the host will die. The last part made everyone's eyes widen in realization. If Naruto lost the beast that was inside of him, he would die. Yes, and take my word for it, that being a Jinchuriki is not easy. They all live a hard life because of what they hold inside of them, and because of that, people ridicule them and try not to have anything to do with them. In short, monsters have it easy compared to a Jinchuriki, because most never have a family or friends. People trusted Minato and I, but never Naruto, and constantly tried to make him feel bad just because of what he held in him, thinking that he was the fox's reincarnation. Kushina said, making everyone look to Naruto in sadness. Naruto, your life must have been so much worse than ours. I wish I could have met you sooner. Frankie thought for her new boyfriend sadly. Naruto, I'm so sorry to hear the way you was back in Japan. At this, Naruto soon looked at them with a smile that his parents recognized before he spoke. Hey, don't be. I was alone, I was rejected, and I was sad, but those are the reasons why I became so strong. I made friends, friends that I could count on when I was in trouble, friends that I could trust, friends that I could protect with my life. That's my way and I will never abandon it. I will never give up on anything or anyone, and that's what makes me strong. People normie or monster can treat me any way they want, but I'll still fight on until the end. That's what makes me who I am, and nothing will ever change that. Naruto said, making everyone in the room smile at his words, knowing them to be true. Well, if that's the case, then you better expect us to stay by your side as well. Cleo stated firmly. Yeah, if you think any of us would ever leave you after hearing about your life, you're wrong, Foxy. Claudine stated. Yeah man, none of us are leaving you just like that. After all, you're our friend and we don't abandon our friends. Gil said with Laguna nodding in agreement. Hey, besides, it'll be fun having you at Monster High. Especially after that prank in Mad Science Lab. Heath said, making Minato and Kushina look at Naruto with raised brows, making him sweat. Thanks guys. Frankie, what about you? Naruto asked, trying to change the subject back from his parents' thoughts on his prank. His answer came in the form of Frankie leaning in and kissing his cheek, making him blush noticeably, but also making Spectra, Claudine, and Abby glare at her while Jennifer's and Rebecca's eyes twitched in jealousy. Kushina saw this, and grinned, waiting to tell them more about kitsunes and mates, but decided to wait for now, not wanting to ruin the moment. Hey, does that answer your question? Frankie asked with a smile after she pulled away from the kiss. I think it'll do, Naruto said with his foxy grin before his mom cleared her throat. Well, it seems my son finally has a ghoul that I approve of. Kushina said happily. Yes, I as well. Minato said. But there is still the matter of getting kids home. Kushina stated, making everyone look to their eye coffins before their eyes widen. It was almost midnight. They had stayed at Naruto's place longer than they thought. Their parents are gonna kill them. Oh man, if I'm late getting home, Dad's gonna be so mad. What do we do? Frankie yelled in fear, along with the rest of her friends before Minato spoke. Well, We do have some guest rooms that you guys can use for tonight, so I guess you could stay here until tomorrow morning. Minato said, making everyone look at him with grateful expressions. Later, everyone had called their parents and told them where they were and that they were sleeping at Naruto's place for the night, to which some of them reluctantly agreed to, so long as none of the guys try anything. Now, everyone was led through the household to the neighboring smaller house. Okay, these are your rooms. The bathroom's down the hall on the right, and if any of you need anything, I'll be up. Naruto explained. Why are you going to stay up? Draculaura asked. Well, earlier really rattled my nerves, so there's no way I'm going to get any sleep tonight. Besides, I need to fix my window and my display case. Shark Face forced me to break one to get my sword while he knocked out the other. Man, it's gonna take me a while. Naruto grumbled before Frankie got an idea. Maybe I can help. I mean, I was with you when they appeared and I'd feel bad if I just left you to fix it yourself. Frankie said, making Naruto think. Well, I guess that's okay then. Beats me having to do it by myself, thanks Frankie. Naruto said with a smile, which Frankie returned. Anyway, the rest of you should get some rest. You look like you're all about fall over from partying so hard. Everyone nodded in agreement, minus Heath, who had fallen asleep on the wall, making everyone's sweat drop. Soon, Naruto and Frankie left to go and repair his room window and display case while everyone else went to their rooms, with Heath having to be dragged into one since he was still asleep. Elsewhere, inside an abandoned warehouse, Itachi and a bruised Kitsune are seen speaking to several holographic figures with only their eyes showing. Itachi had just finished explaining their failure to capture Naruto. When he finished, their leader glared at them with pure anger. So, you failed to complete your task. That is very disappointing, Itachi, and even worse for you, Kitsune. The one with rings in his eyes stated. It wasn't my fault. The brat got better with training while we wasted our times making money on small jobs. Grr. Next time I see that fox, I'm cutting off his arms and legs. Kitsune said angrily as he pulled leaves and branches from his hair. Well, aren't we the grumpy one today? Is it because you were beat by a kid or because you couldn't get revenge, A figure with blue eyes asked with amusement, making Kitsune glare at him. You two are so damn pathetic. I mean, you didn't even do anything, Itachi. Maybe if you stepped in, you would have captured the 9 tails without much trouble. Oh well now. A figure with violet eyes said. Calm down, the both of you. They might have failed, but at least we know where the 9 tails Jinchuriki is now. A figure with 2 different yellow eyes stated. Zetsu is right. The main objective was to locate the 9 tails, and that's what we did. Now, we know where he lives and we will capture him soon enough, along with the others. For now, watch him from a distance, you two, and wait for the perfect chance to strike. The ring-eyed figure ordered, getting nods from Itachi and Kitsune before disappearing. At Tsukioto, Sasuke, Karen, Suigetsu, and Jugo are seen inside a dark underground hideout with torches on several pillars and a large serpent head behind them with candles in the eyes. They stood in the center of several dead monsters, normies, and mutated beings that are no longer recognizable to anyone. Blood dripping from the hands and blades of Sasuke, Suigetsu, and Jugo, the later looking like the mutated creatures. Well done, Sasuke. Very good. Orochimaru said with a clap as he slithered out from the other side of the room. You and your gang have become very powerful since your arrival. Thank you, Orochimaru-sama. Sasuke said with a bow, his gang doing the same. Now, you have become so much closer to getting revenge on your former friend. Orochimaru said with a sickening grin. Good, because I'm tired of waiting to kill him for humiliating me. No one humiliates a Uchiha and survives. Sasuke said with obvious hatred in his voice. Cool it, Sasuke, your wish is going to come true soon enough. Kabuto stated as he appeared beside Orochimaru with as he pushed up his glasses. Che, Just what's that supposed to mean? Suigetsu asked, placing his blade on his back. Hey, I got you all tickets on the next flight out of here next week to Scare America. In the meantime, you might want to either keep training or get packing. Kabuto answered. You couldn't get us some any sooner. Karen asked. Oh, I tried, but the last plane left before I could get you any tickets. Kabuto said before facing Orochimaru. Kakashi and Jiraiya were on it as well. I see, so they're going to check up on that brat of theirs. Well, that is very interesting. Orochimaru said before facing Sasuke's gang. Ask for you for, you must rest. You have school tomorrow, as well as training. Yes, Orochimaru-sama. They all said in unison before walking away. Unknown to anyone, Sasuke smirked darkly at finally coming closer to killing Naruto and getting his vengeance. It was morning after last night and things had gone back to normal and calmed down. The guys and ghouls are all seen sleeping soundly in their rooms without a care in the world. However, Frankie was not in her room. No, she is seen on a king-sized bed with Naruto seen sleeping next to her. They both stayed up half the night repairing the window in his weapon display case. They spent even more time picking things up that had fallen over due to the fight from Kitsune. In the end, without thinking, Frankie had lied down on Naruto's bed and had fallen asleep from the whole night. Naruto saw this and smiled before slitting his covers over her. As much as he wanted to, he didn't wake her. He couldn't blame Frankie for being as tired as she was. After all, partying hard, attacking criminals, and fixing windows and cleaning a half-destroyed room would exhaust anyone. So, he shrugged while removing his shirt and went to sleep himself, not knowing the dangers of doing such an act, until now. The phone was ringing from in the house. In a minute, Kushina walked into the kitchen wearing a red robe. She picked up the phone and spoke. Hello, Kushina said with a yawn. Well, if it isn't my favorite Kitsune. How's it going, Kushina? A male voice spoke, one that said Kitsune recognized immediately before slamming the phone back on the receiver, only for it to ring again, making Kushina pick it up. Well, that kinda rude. What do you want, pervert? Kushina asked irritability. Oh, nothing much, just to say that me and Kakashi flew here to see you guys and find out how you're all doing. In fact, we're almost at your house now, see you then. The now named Jiraiya answered cheerfully before hanging up. Kushina's eyes widened at this knowledge, dropping the phone in shock before her face turned red in anger. Everyone slept peacefully before they were broken from their dreams by a very loud yell. WWWWHAT. Kushina yelled, causing everyone in the house to wake up, startled out of their minds. Heath was unfortunate to fall out of bed and hit the hardwood floor with a loud thud. Frankie groaned from the loud noise before rolling over, her being placed on something tough, warm, and furry. Frankie snuggled up to it with a sigh. So warm and furry, what a comfortable pillow. Wait, pillows aren't furry. Frankie thought as her eyes snapped open and looked up into the closed eyes of Naruto. At this, Frankie's face turned from green to red and her neck bolts sparked like crazy. She saw the position they were in, making her whole body turn red. Naruto's arm was around her waist and she was on his side. What happened last night? Did Naruto and Frankie trailed off as Naruto stirred before waking up and seeing the position he was in, but thought he was still dreaming. Well, if this is a dream, I don't want to wake up. Only one way to find out. Naruto said before leaning in and kissing Frankie on the lips. Frankie was stunned for a second before returning the kiss. At this, Naruto pulled away with a goofy grin. Hey, definitely not a dream. Naruto stated, making Frankie giggle. Nope, I'm real alright, but I think it's time to get out of bed before someone comes in and sees us like this. Frankie said, making Naruto blush seeing what she meant and getting up, putting his shirt back on. Yeah, the last thing I want is for our friends or, worse, my mom to see us like this. Naruto said before helping Frankie out of the bed. At that moment, Minato came in and slammed the door shut, his back to it with a scared face. Naruto, help your dear old dad out and keep your weapons away from your mother. Minato pleaded before noticing the two in front of him. Did you guys? No, Dad, we just stayed up late fixing my room. Nothing happened, I swear. Naruto yelled, waving his arms in front of him. Well, I believe it for now, but I need some help at the moment. Your mother just got a call from Jiraiya saying that he and Kakashi's coming to visit. Minato said, making his son pale, while Frankie looked between the two confused. Am I missing something here? Who's Jiraiya and Kakashi? Frankie asked, making the look at before sighing. Jiraiya is my dad's old sensei who trained him in ninjutsu, taijutsu, and sealing. He has trained me too. And ask for Kakashi, he's one of my teachers from my old school, Konoha Gakuen. Naruto answered. Okay, and that's bad why? Frankie asked, not understanding the problem. It's not that it's bad, but my wife is still pretty steamed at Jiraiya after the incident with him peeping on her in the hot springs. Let's just say that he learned to never peep on my wife again. Minato said with nervously, making Frankie not like the old pervert right away. Yeah, and Kakashi-sensei isn't bad, but he's always reading certain books in public without thinking of others. Naruto said, making Frankie nod understanding. Okay, so they're perverts, that much is clear, but is there anything my friends in need to worry about? Frankie asked. You mean aside from their behavior toward women? Not really. Minato answered. Well then, we get everyone else up and ready. Frankie said happily, but was a little worried about meeting the perverts. Later, everyone was out of their rooms, dressed, and eating breakfast, courtesy of Naruto's clones and mom. They talked for a bit before a knocking was heard at the door. Though, the minute it came, Kushina broke the wooden spoon she was using to mix pancake mix, scaring the hell out of everyone. I all get it. Naruto said with a paled expression as he got up and ran to the door. When he opened it, there stood a normie with long, untamed white hair in a ponytail, brown eyes with red markings going down his cheeks, a gray dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows, black belt, black khakis, and dress shoes. Next to him stood a ghost with a blue glow around his body, gravity-defying, silver hair with the left side of the bangs covering his left eye, his right eye being black, a doctor's mask covering his face, a white shirt, red tie, chain suspenders, chain belt, black pants, and black shoes. He also had cuffs with detached chains on his wrists. Both looked at Naruto with a smile, or I smile in the ghost's case. Hey Naruto, long time no see. The normie said happily. Hello Naruto, good to see you again. The ghost said kindly. Hey, yeah, great to see you too Kakashi-sensei, pervy sage. Naruto said cheerfully, making the sage face fault. How many times have I told you to stop calling me that? Jiraiya yelled in irritation, making Naruto chuckle. About a dozen times. So what brings you guys here? Naruto asked as the two walked. Well, we came to see how you and your parents were settling in here in the United States. Kakashi answered as they moved down the hall and entered the kitchen, only for the ghost and normie to come to a stop in the doorway. Inside the kitchen was a bunch of monsters sitting around and eating breakfast with Naruto's parents. Though, they were only focused on the very hot ghouls. The two men's eyes were wide before someone clearing their throat got their attentions. Both turned and impaled as Kushina stood before them with an all too kind smile on her face. Hello Jiraiya, Kakashi. Kushina greeted Nickly. Hey Kushina, nice to see you again. Kakashi said with a stutter. Yeah, you're looking as ravishing as ever. Jiraiya said, receiving a glare that spelled death if he ever said that to her again. Hello Jiraiya, Kakashi, what brings you two here? Minato asked as he stepped between the two and his, saving their hides. Well, in truth, we came to speak with you two. Jiraiya said seriously, getting Minato's and Kushina's attentions, knowing that if Jiraiya was serious, they should be too. Do we need to talk in private? Kushina asked. Yeah, I don't want Naruto or the others here to know what we have to say. Jiraiya said, getting understanding nods from the two. Kakashi, stay here and make sure no one listens in on us. Kakashi nodded before the three walked off. Kakashi pulled out a small orange book before floating over to Naruto, who was talking to Frankie and Rebecca. Well, Naruto, are you going to introduce me to your friends or just ignore me to speak with your ghoul friends? Kakashi asked, making Naruto blush, along with Rebecca and Frankie while everyone finished eating and looked to the ghost. Alright, well everyone, this is one of my teachers from my old school. Naruto said, Kakashi putting down his book and giving everyone an eye smile and wave. Kakashi Hatake, nice to meet you all. Kakashi said kindly, getting greetings and introductions from everyone else. So you're Naruto's old teacher? Frankie asked. That's right, I'm his former history teacher. Kakashi said, confusing everyone. Really? Then why are you wearing a doctor's mask? I thought you were a mad science teacher. Claude asked. I asked the same question, but the only answer he gave me was pull it off, showing that he was wearing another underneath it and said that it was cool. Naruto answered for the ghost, making everyone face fault at the thought, while Kakashi laughed. Yep, that's me alright. Kakashi said before turning to the Kitsune. So Naruto, any of these ghouls your ghoul friend or ghoul friends? At this, Frankie and Naruto blushed while the guys snickered, though most of the ghouls looked at Frankie with glares. Yeah, me and Frankie are a couple, after last night. Naruto answered. Yeah, a very exciting night that I'm sure to never forget. Frankie said. You and everyone else. Kakashi said under breath, making Spectra, who was floating behind him, raise a brow. What's that mean? The ghostly beauty asked. Well, Jiraiya and I heard about what happened last night through Naruto's father. Kakashi answered, but chose to leave it at that. Oh, so Dad called you guys last night. What did he say? Naruto asked. Nothing much, just that he told us about your attackers and wanted us to see if we could keep an eye out for them back home. Kakashi answered, not telling anyone the full truth. Also, I brought you this. Kakashi pulled out a webcam and handed it to Naruto. Hey, thanks Kakashi-sensei. Naruto said excitedly. Hey, you're welcome. I figured that you'd much like to see and speak to your friends back home, then just text them. Kakashi said with his eye smile. Yeah, I'll be sure to do that. In fact, how would you guys like to meet my old pals back home? Naruto asked, getting nods from everyone. Alright, I'll go grab my laptop and see you guys in the living room. Everyone nodded before going to said room with Naruto running up to his room. As they left, Jiraiya, Minato, and Kushina came back inside, the two parents looking unhappy. Well, Kakashi asked. We need some time to think about helping. I mean, we're retired from our old work, that's one of the reasons we moved in the first place. Kushina said. Yeah, I mean, we're parents now and we would much rather spend more time with our son. Minato said. We see your side of things, but we need your help finding the criminals in this file, the Akatsuki. If not you two, then who? Besides, we know that they attacked last night, but as long as the Akatsuki know that either you or I are around Naruto, they'll stay away. Jiraiya said seriously. Yes, and the fact that two of them are here works to our advantage. If we can capture either Itachi or Kitsune, we'll find the rest of their members put an end to them. Kakashi said. Maybe, but you both know that none of us can watch Naruto 24/7. What if the Akatsuki attack him while he's out with his friends or worse, when he's in school? Kushina asked worriedly. Kakashi thought for a moment before something caught his eye, making him smile under his mask. Well, maybe we can have our little nosy ghost can watch his back, especially since she's been listening in on us. Right, Vondergeist-san, Kakashi asked, making said ghost squeak in surprise before floating out of the ceiling. How did you know I was here? Spectra asked. When you've been a teacher for as long as I have, you tend to learn when you're being listened to or ignored. So, how do you feel about watching Naruto while we're busy around town and he's with you at school? Kakashi asked. Well, he is my friend and I don't want anything bad to ever happen to him, but wouldn't watching him mean having to get close to him? I don't want to come between him and Frankie. Spectra said, not sure if getting close to the Kitsune was a good idea, even though she really wanted to be with him. At this, Kushina smiled before walking up behind the ghost. Oh Spectra, I just love your innocent and thoughtful attitude. However, I can tell that you like my son the same way as Frankie and some of the other ghouls in school. Kushina said kindly, making the ghost blush. Why you're right, but I can't steal him from Frankie and I don't think the others would either. Spectra admitted, making Kushina's smile widen, while the other three in the room smirked at what the Kitsune was about to say. That's why I'm going to let you in on a little secret that all Kitsunes know about. Kushina said with a grin. Naruto soon came back down from his room with his laptop with the webcam attached and sat down on the couch and put the laptop on a coffee table, his friends sitting or standing around him. He then began typing into it. Meanwhile, Kushina was speaking to Spectra. You see Spectra, Kitsunes can have multiple women or a harem so to speak. Kushina stated, surprising the ghost. Really? Wait, does that mean that you? Spectra trailed off, but backed up when Kushina glared at her. No, Minato's the only man I've ever had or even been with. Kushina yelled before calming down. Sorry, but if someone asked you the same thing all the time and people assume you get really annoyed. Anyway, no, female kitsunes are not like males. No, we're born strong, which is why we choose only one mate for life. Males, like Naruto, are very rare and because of that, they take on multiple women as mates to pass on the next generation. Really? So because Naruto is rare, he needs to have multiple ghouls in hopes of having children? Spectra asked, getting nods from everyone. Yes. In fact, male kitsunes are one of the most sought-after monsters in the world. You see, monster hunters of all kinds hunt male kitsunes because they are the ultimate prize to them. Male kitsunes become powerful over time and because of that, they are a challenge for monster hunters. Jiraiya explained, shocking the ghost. Indeed. In fact, most male kitsunes don't live past the age of 10 before monster hunters get their hands on them, which is the best time to try and capture a male kitsune, at an early age. Over time, male kitsunes were hunted to near extinction. Naruto was lucky since he was safe with us. Minato stated. That's horrible. Spectra yelled. I can't believe that monster hunters would do such a thing. I know. Anyway, since you, among other ghouls, are already interested in him and we need someone to watch out for him in school, Kakashi trailed off. I'll do it. Naruto and I might have just met, but he already means a lot to me and I won't let anything bad happen to him. Even if I have to share him with other ghouls. Spectra stated with determination, making the four smile. That's good, but try not to jump into bed with him just yet. I'm too young to be a granny. Kushina stated, making Spectra blush before flying out of the room to join the others. You know, I think you do want grandchildren already. Jiraiya stated, making Kushina turn to him with a foxy grin. Just so I can spoil them rotten. Kushina stated, making Minato, Kakashi, and Jiraiya face fault. Spectra just made it into the room everyone was at when Naruto got the webcam up and it started. Alright guys, just give it a minute. I put in my friends' emails and sent them messages to go on their webcams so we can talk. Naruto said, just as 4 video boxes appeared on the screen of the blonde's laptop with a person in each of them. The first was of a boogeyman zombie boy with gray skin, black hair tied back into a spiked ponytail, black eyes, metal earrings, a light black jacket over a green shirt and gray jeans. He had bored a tired expression on his face. "Hey Naruto." The boy greeted dryly, making the guys and ghouls sweat drop. The next was a werewolf boy with dark brown fur obviously all over his body, messy brown hair, pointed ears, fangs, brown eyes, red fang markings on his cheeks, wearing a black bandana and a blue and black checkered hoodie and tattered jeans. Standing beside him was a large wolf with white fur. The werewolf boy was giving Naruto a feral grin. "Yo Naruto. I was wondering when you'd finally talk to us," the boy said happily, making Naruto smile. The next was a large ogre boy with green skin, long brown spiky hair, 2 horns over his forehead, pointy ears, 2 large pointed teeth protruding from his lower lip, brown eyes, metal earrings, swirl warmings on his cheeks, and wearing a red shirtsleeve shirt over a gray long sleeve shirt and brown pants. He had a happy expression on his face as he ate a bag of chips. "Hey there Munch Naruto," the boy greeted as he continued to eat, making the guys laugh while the ghouls, mostly Cleo, thought it was gross. The last boy was an ape-like boy, covered in brownish black fur, black hair in a bowl cut, large black eyebrows, black eyes, and wearing a green tracksuit with orange leg warmers. He was giving Naruto an excited expression. "Hello Naruto. It is so great to see you again my youthful friend," the ape boy exclaimed, making everyone laugh at his energy while Heath was on the ground laughing about his eyebrows. "Haha, yeah, it's great to see you all again too. Guys, these are some of my friends. The zombie boogeyman is Shikamaru Nara and the ogre is his best friend Choji Akamaiki. The hyper Hybagon is Rock Lee. And the talking hairball is Kiba Inuzuka and his wolf Akamaru," Naruto introduced, though making Kiba gain a tick mark. "Hey, who are you calling hairball fox face?" Kiba yelled. "You, dog breath," Naruto yelled back before he and Kiba laughed. "Haha, anyway guys, I'd like you to meet some of the new friends I made here." Everyone quickly introduced themselves before Frankie wrapped her arms around Naruto from behind. "Hi there, I'm Frankie Stein," Frankie introduced kindly. "Hey there," Shikamaru greeted lazily. "Nice to meet you Frankie," Choji greeted, finally finished with his chips. "Hello Frankie, it's nice to meet someone as youthful as you," Lee exclaimed. Kiba however drooled as he stared at her before giving a wolf howl before ending it with a shit-eating grin. "Hello hottie. How's about when I visit, you and I go out on a date?" Kiba asked, making Frankie look at him like he was crazy. "Sorry Kiba, she's my ghoul, so I don't think she'd be interested in a mud like you. Though, I could always mail you a giant stuffed animal," Naruto stated, making everyone laugh at the confused werewolf. "Giant stuffed animal. Hey, wait a minute," Kiba yelled in realization at what his friend just implied. "Well Naruto, it's great to hear from you," Choji stated. "Yeah, anything interesting happen, other than you getting a ghoul friend?" Shikamaru asked. Naruto and everyone soon talked between each other. Naruto chose to tell them to be on the lookout for the Akatsuki in case they send anyone else after him, to which his friends all agreed. Spectra had told them about the party they had, which really upset Naruto's friends since they wanted to come, knowing that Naruto was one hell of a monster. Later, Shikamaru said that since he and his family had left, Police Chief Danzo has been a really pain in the for all monsters and barely paying any attention to normie criminals. The news really got on all of the monsters' nerves since they had to deal with the same problem here in New Salem. Later, they all said goodbye to each other, leaving Naruto and the students of Monster High. "Well, this was nice, but we really got to get home, tomorrow's Monday after all," Deuce stated, getting nods from everyone. "You're right man. Hey, and it is getting dark out and we all need to get up tomorrow. So, who wants a ride home in my car?" Naruto asked. "We do." Frankie, Claudine, Abby, and even Spectra exclaimed in unison. Later that night, Everyone had drove home and Naruto had returned to his home, though, not before Frankie and him kissed and wished each other good night. When our favorite blonde walked in, he saw his parents in ninja gear. If you've already seen Road to Ninja, then you already know what they look like, along with Jiraiya and Kakashi. What's going on? Naruto asked. Well, Naruto, your mother and I are going out tonight to search for those two from the Akatsuki. We can't risk them coming after you again, so we're going to take care of them before that happens. Minato explained. Kakashi is going out with us too so that we can cover more ground. Jiraiya will be here to watch out for you, so relax. Are you crazy, Dad? How can I relax knowing that you guys are going out to search for two guys that are extremely dangerous? I'm gonna just stand by and let you fight for me. Naruto yelled before Kushina looked to Jiraiya, who nodded. Naruto, we love you and that's why we can't let you come with us. Yes, you're strong, but these two are out of your league and have had years more experience. Kushina stated to her son, who hadn't noticed that Jiraiya had disappeared from his eyesight. Your mother is right, Naruto. You might have beaten Kitsune, but that was because you only caught him by surprise and used to your advantage. You won't be given that kind of advantage again. Not against him or Itachi. Kakashi explained, making Naruto glare at him. I don't care if I'm in danger or not, I'm not going to just stand back and watch. I'm going in. Naruto began before Jiraiya placed a paper seal on his forehead from out behind him, knocking him out and catching him before he fell. Don't worry, I'll watch over him. As his godfather, I'll protect him with my life. Jiraiya stated, getting nods from everyone. As they began leaving, Kushina spoke up. Jiraiya, just in case, me and Minato have talked about it and we've decided that you should train him. This is just a safety precaution, in case, you know. Kushina stated. Kushina, don't say things like that. You and Minato won't die. Ask for training, the idiot, I'll do it, but don't think that I'm doing it because you think you'll die. It's because he does need to get stronger. You and Minato need to let him make his own mistakes and take care of them. Just like you two, he'll get pushed down but get right back up and push back harder. Jiraiya stated, making Kushina smile. I know, he's our son after all. Still, get him up on time, or else, Kushina threatened, punching her fist into her open palm. Alright, no problem. Jiraiya whimpered. Oh, and if you turn him into a pervert, consider yourself castrated. Kushina said sweetly, which made Jiraiya pale before quickly nodding and running to put Naruto in bed, leaving a smiling Kushina to walk out the door. Unknown location. Itachi and Kitsune are seen sitting on some crates as two figures walk up to them. So, they sent you, huh? Kitsune asked. Yes, and since you two are empty-handed, what do you expect, hem? A man wearing the same cloak as them said. He was blonde-haired man with his hair a long ponytail. His skin like light brown sand, his ears had tiny gold bricks that looks like pointed ears, and blue eyes. The one beside him looked like a normie with short red hair and brown eyes wearing the same cloak as them as well. Anyway, the others just sent us to help you out since the brat's parents are around, and our sources tell us that Kakashi of the Sharingan is here and so is Jiraiya of the Sannin. The redhead said to the other two. In that case, you leave Kakashi to me. We'll worry about his parents later. Ask for Jiraiya, we'll deal with him when the time is right. Itachi said before standing. I agree to that plan, but first, we need to move and find another hideout before those four come looking here. Kitsune stated. As they left, they never noticed that two other people were watching them from deep within the shadows. One looked like a Venus flytrap and the other was completely hidden, with only a single red eye with comas staring at the four's backs. The next day, Naruto woke up and Jiraiya told him that he would begin training him and that his parents and Kakashi would be out all day. Naruto accepted this, but very reluctantly before driving to school and meeting up with his new girlfriend Frankie. Naruto and Frankie are seen walking together towards their lockers, talking back and forth and with their hands intertwined. As they were walking, everyone they passed were surprised to see the new guy and Frankie with each other as a couple. Naruto was currently telling the ghoul about one of his pranks that he and his friends pulled once. Okay, so after we set up the flower inside the air vents, we snuck back to class and acted like nothing was wrong. Soon enough, once the air came on, the entire school looked like a frosty wonderland. Naruto ended, making Frankie laugh. Ha ha ha, you and your friends sound fun, Naruto. Frankie exclaimed, trying to keep from falling to the floor in laughter. Hey, yeah, I know. Take my word for it though, that wasn't even close to our biggest prank. Naruto stated, gaining Frankie's interest. Oh, and what was that? Frankie asked. Hey, let's just say that it involved replacing the confetti cannons at one of our games with paint cannons, and everyone in the stands got painted in our favorite colors. Naruto answered, making Frankie giggle at the thought. Unknown to them, Torale and her pals were watching them from overhead. So you like pranks, Foxy? Well, let's see how you like this one on your girlfriend. Torale said as she and her pals each lifted a bucket of water, ready to soak Frankie and get Naruto a very nasty shock as they walked under the overhead pass. Just before Naruto and Frankie came towards the pass, theirs and everyone else's icophones went off. Opening their respective phones, Frankie looked to the ghostly gossip and read whatever it was that Spectra had posted. Hey all you ghosts and ghouls, this reporter has a piece of juicy news for you. The new monster in Monster High, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, as you all know, is with Frankie Stein. However, this reporter has just recently dug up that due to his heritage, is permitted by law to be a polygamist. In short, he is allowed to have multiple ghouls. Frankie read, to which Naruto's eyes widened in complete shock. Hot. Naruto yelled before reading again, just make sure he was going blind, only to see that Frankie had read right. Naruto, this isn't right, is it? Frankie asked, making the blonde pale at the tone in her voice. Well, Frankie, Naruto tried to say, only for a scream to scare them as every ghoul around turned to Naruto, who paled under their awestruck gazes on him. There he is, one ghoul yelled, making them all run at him. Oh crap, I'll explain later, Frankie, I gotta run for my life. Naruto yelled before running down the hall, the mob of Fangols hot on his trail. Naruto, Frankie whispered before a suspicious look crossed her face and she went off to find Spectra to get the real story. Overhead, Torale had a sinister smirk on her face. So, Foxy can be with multiple ghouls, huh? Well, that is just so perfect for me. Come on ghouls, we have a fox to get our claws on. Torale said, making her fellow werecats follow her. Naruto is seen running from the giant group of Fangols before seeing Heath and the guy he knew was Hoodooed Voodoo up ahead, both turning and waving at him. Hey Naruto, is this true that you can have multiple ghouls? Heath asked. Yeah, if it is, how do we get that many? Hoodooed asked, making Naruto stop in front of them with an idea and prank coming to him. That's easy, just stand in the middle of the hall, arms out wide, and say, ladies, say hello to your prince screaming. It works every time. Bye. Naruto said before running off, turning to look back and watch the two do just as he said to do, only to get trampled, which led to Hoodoo's pain being transferred to Heath, which doubled his pain. Hey, sorry guys, but I needed some kind of shield to save my hide just then. Naruto quickly turned a corner, only to come face to face with a wall, which made him pale. Oh damn, I just had to run into a dead end. Naruto said before hearing the Fangols getting closer. Damn, I'm trapped. Looking around as frantically as possible, Naruto's eyes stopped on an air duct, making him smirk as he quickly opened it and climbed inside and closing it fast, just as the group of ghouls all came to the place he was just a moment ago. At this, Naruto began crawling through the vents. Man, that was too close. Now I just need to find a place to hide until things cool down and those ghouls give up looking for me. Speaking of ghouls, how the hell did Spectra, Mom? Next time I see Mom, I'm going to have a long discussion with about boundaries and privacy. Naruto said to himself as he continued to crawl before slipping over the edge of a downwards vent, making Naruto yell out in fear. After a good few minutes, Naruto came out of the vent face first into a dark place. Ow. Well, that at least got me away from all of those ghouls. Still, what is this place? Naruto questioned as he took in his surroundings. The place was dark, damp, and had small stalagmites and stalactites in some place with some forming solid columns. Dripping sounds are heard and some noises are echoing through the small cave opening. Looking closer inside, there looks like a small playground. Dark, damp, and creepy, I must be in the catacombs. Though, I'm not sure where. Naruto said as he looked around the spot he was in, not noticing the many pairs of small eyes and one pair of large blue eyes looking at him. What is he doing here? Did he come looking for me? If so, why? What would he want with me, unless he's looking to turn me into one of his mates? Jane Doolittle as she and her animal friends watched the Kitsune in fear, worry, and some in anticipation in case he was there to hurt Jane. Naruto walked before his foot hit some trash on the ground. Curious, he picked up the trash and saw that it was from the crematorium. Well, looks like someone's been living down here, though I wonder if that's a good thing or a bad thing for me. This one's still warm. Naruto said before subtly sniffing the air around him, his nose picking up the scent of some animals and a person. There's a few of them, but the person is what worries me more. Time to play some fox and rabbit. Naruto then stood up and walked behind a column. At this, Jane followed silently, stopping on the column before going around it, only to see the Kitsune not there. Where did the fox go? Jane questioned in worry before a voice above her spoke up. Up here, little rabbit, Naruto said, making Jane look up shocked before Naruto jumped at her, making them roll on the ground together before coming to a complete stop with Naruto on top of her. Okay. Who are you and what do you want with me? Jane had her eyes closed before opening them and looking at Naruto in fear, which made Naruto look at her more closely. Whoa, she's beautiful. Naruto thought, feeling heat on his face. Please don't hurt me. I'm sorry that I spied on you, I didn't know you would react so negatively. Jane said in a scared tone, making Naruto sad for what he did before her words sank in. Firstly, what's your name? Second, why'd you spying on me? Naruto asked, making Jane look at him in a little less fear. My name is Jane Doolittle and the reason I spied on you is because I'm very shy and I feel more comfortable watching and observing others than interacting with them. I've been watching you since you came here, but I wanted to speak to you, but I was too shy to do so. Jane explained, making Naruto think before a smirk crossed his face. So what you're saying, Jane, is that you've been stalking me? Naruto said, making Jane sputter like crazy. Hey, I already told your pet that I'm not stalking you. Well, Jane tried to say, but couldn't think of the right words before Naruto spoke again. Wait, you could talk to Kurama. I thought I was the only one. Naruto said, making Jane raise a brow. You can talk to animals too? Jane asked, while Naruto got off her and helped Jane to her feet. Nah, only Kurama. It's complicated. Naruto explained. I see. So, why exactly are you here? Not many people know about this place in the catacombs. Jane said, making Naruto rub the back of his head. You see, I kinda had to find a hiding place from a mob of Fangols after a secret of mine was made public. Naruto answered, making Jane blush at what he meant. You mean about you having multiple mates? Jane asked, making Naruto pale. Yeah. Don't tell me that you're going to try and jump me now, are you? Naruto asked, causing Jane to blush and wave her hands frantically. No, no, of course not. I would never try something like that, Jane stated, making Naruto sigh in relief. That's good, the last thing I want is to hurt a beautiful ghoul like you, Naruto said, not noticing that he caused Jane to turn crimson. I'm beautiful, Jane thought before Naruto got her attention again. So, you going to introduce me to your friends hiding in the shadows or what? Naruto asked. Oh, right, sorry. It's alright everyone, Jane trailed off, looking at Naruto for the right words. Hey, we're friends of course, Naruto stated with his foxy grin, making Jane smile at making a new friend. Soon, the pets to some of the students came out, all smiling at Naruto. Naruto, these are the pets of some of the students that you've probably already met. What's it? Count Fabulous, Crescent, Sir Hoots-a-Lot, Hisset, Shiver, and Ruin. There's sometimes more, but they're not here today, Jane said after introducing them all. Well, I can certainly tell who they belong to since I see their owners in them. Hey, it's nice to meet you all, I'm Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, Naruto introduced before noticing Whatsit. Well, you must be Whatsit. Frankie mentioned you once. Ruff, 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 Whatsit barked, making Naruto turn to Jane. What did he say? Naruto asked. He said that it's nice to meet you, Naruto, Jane translated before Whatsit barked some more. Whatsit also says that you had better not hurt Frankie or he'll show how scary he can be. Naruto's sweat dropped at that with one thought in mind. Yeah, that little thing is about as scary as full-grown normie man in giant bunny suit, Naruto thought before shaking his head. Don't worry Whatsit, I would never hurt Frankie or let her get hurt, I give you my word. No harm will come to my ghoul friend. Well, you are more intriguing than I first thought, Naruto. Maybe I could, Jane thought before Naruto turned to her. Anyway, it was nice meeting you and your animal friends, Jane, but I really need to find a way out of here. Think you could show me the way? Naruto asked, getting a nod from Jane. Of course, follow me, Naruto, Jane said, leading him through the dark catacombs. Unknown to anyone inside Monster High, an odd bird was flying overhead. It was completely white and looked like it was made of some sort of earthy substance. On top of it was Deidara with a grin on his face as he watched a certain figure below entering the school. Well, this plan isn't very explosive, but if it means to get close to the Jinchuriki without anyone being any the wiser, then so be it. Good luck, Sasori, my man, Deidara said to himself. Inside the school in Headmistress Bloodgood's office, a person wearing black pants, red and white tennis shoes, a red shirt, and a black hoodie with a red scorpion symbol on the back, was sitting in front of Bloodgood's desk with the hood covering over his head, covering his face. Bloodgood is seen reading over his paperwork with her head off. After a minute, Bloodgood smiles before her body places her head back on. Well, all of your paperwork checks out. I just need to get your class schedule in order and call for someone to show you around the school, Bloodgood said as she and he stood up and shook hands. Welcome to Monster High, Mr. Sasori. Out of nowhere, thunder and lightning was seen outside the window, completely unnoticed by the two monsters while Sasori lifted his head up higher, giving a clear view of his calm face. Thank you, Headmistress Bloodgood. I'm sure my time here will be very fulfilling, Sasori